Hello, Harrogate! Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, as we're gathered here today on the 6th of our round-the-country meetings, which, as John Longworth said earlier, have so far been watched by those that attend, but those watching live on their computers at home now by well over 1 million people. As we're doing that, in London, there is a whole load of students who have been bussed in from all over the country. Quite why the British youth at the moment, through our universities, think it's better for us to be run by a bunch of unelected old men in Brussels who we can't vote for and can't remove is beyond me, but that's where they are. And of course, funded by George Soros and big business, they've got with them many of the mainstream career politicians from Westminster. And what you'll notice is a lot of them today will be holding up that loathsome flag. Do you know the one I mean? That European Union flag. So what I want to do now is maybe just address one or two of the points that they've made. Now, why don't we start off by sending the so-called People's Vote a message. This is our flag. All right? This is our flag, not some artificial star-spangled banner that represents an undemocratic, anti-democratic, increasingly authoritarian European Union that country by country is now being loathed across the whole of Europe. And they have the audacity to call themselves the People's Vote. Well, we had the People's Vote, didn't we? We had it back in 2016, and Leave won that referendum, and that should be that. And what do you think? Think of the advantages they had. They had the mass battalions of our senior politicians from the last quarter of a century. They had Sir John Major saying Leave would be a disaster. They had Tony Blair saying Leave would be a disaster. We had the former Deputy Prime Minister, Sir Nick Clegg, telling us that Leave would be a disaster, and now we learn that Nick is emigrating. He's obviously realised that his dream of a second referendum simply isn't going to happen. He's off to work for Facebook on a salary, a huge salary of $1 million a year, and it all goes to prove you don't need free movement of people for low-skilled employees to find work. That really worked today. I like that one. And they had the money, didn't they? And they had government money. Do you remember David Cameron spending 9 million quid of your money to put that leaflet through every door in this country telling us that Brexit would be a disaster? And how I enjoyed walking up Downing Street and posting it back through his own front door, I can tell you. But despite that, oh, and I nearly forgot, global leaders including President Obama, coming to tell us that we be at the back of the queue, and some would say some pretty questionable impartiality coming from our state broadcaster, the BBC, also. But nonetheless, whatever advantages they have, I'm saying this to you folks rallying in London today, we won that referendum despite the advantages, despite the threats. Do you remember what Osborne told us? I mean, you should never get personal in politics. You should try and avoid getting personal in politics. But he really, that pasty-faced, ghastly individual, I'm pleased Quite restrained for me, I thought. Didn't spend long enough in Wetherspoons, obviously, earlier on today. But the point is, we had these terrible threats being made. Hello, you're welcome. You're welcome. That's all right. You're in the wrong place. You should be in London. It's getting like a Trump rally, isn't it? Well, that's all right. We believe in free speech. We believe in free speech. We believe in democracy, sir. And if you believe in democracy, you will respect the greatest democratic vote ever held in this country's history. But, you know, even more important than the fact we won that referendum are the terms upon which it was won. We were told, were we not, by both of our major parties in that referendum that whatever the result was, it would be respected. We were told in that leaflet that Cameron put through our doors that whatever the result of the referendum, it would be implemented. This, ladies and gentlemen, now, where we are today, is about something absolutely fundamental in a country such as ours, with its tradition of parliamentary democracy, with its tradition of standing up and fighting at great cost, not just for our liberty, but actually for the liberty of other European peoples and European countries too. And we are now at a moment perhaps the most important moment in this story, our island's story of democratic self-government. Because what this is about today, and the reason that many of us have come back out of relative retirement to join the Leave Means Leave campaign, is what this is about now. It is about trust in our entire democratic system. That is what is at stake here now. Because we didn't just vote once to leave the European Union, to leave the single market, to leave the customs union. Oh, yes, and to take back control of our borders so that we can get immigration back to sensible, sustainable levels in this country. Every single major player on both the Leave and the Remain side said the consequence of voting Leave is we would leave the single market and the customs union. It couldn't be clearer. When they tell us we didn't know what we were voting for in their high-handed, arrogant manner, we voted to become an independent, self-governing country. Every person in this room and around this country knows we voted to leave the European Union and all of its structures. Simple. We didn't just vote for this once, we voted for it twice. Because a year later, remember, there was a general election. A general election Theresa May would probably rather forget. But in that general election, it's perfectly clear what the government's manifesto said. It said explicitly, we'll be leaving the single market, we'll be leaving the customs union, and Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party said exactly the same thing too, and 85% of the votes that were cast in that general election in 2017 were on the basis that whoever formed the government, we would leave the EU, the single market and the customs union. And now we have a Prime Minister who has been spouting for the last 2 years, Brexit means Brexit, who I saw this week at that European summit, because don't forget, I'm not completely retired. I am still an MEP. They're thrilled when I turn up every week over there, I can tell you. Well, I tell you, I have more fun than they do, I've got to tell you. But I was there at that summit. I felt embarrassed to be British as I watched our leader once again being humiliated. I watched our leader once again capitulate. I watched our leader, who when she tells us Brexit means Brexit, clearly now really what she means is Brexit means remain. It is a betrayal of what we voted for. But it isn't just her and the leadership of the Conservative Party, it is the Labour Party too. 5 million people who voted Brexit in 2016 voted for the Labour Party in that election in 2017. And now, I heard Keir Starmer, their Brexit spokesman, saying clearly on the radio last week that Labour also wanted to keep Britain inside a customs union. They are all trying to kick the can down the road. They effectively want the transition period to go on until the next general election, when we could get a government that simply never takes us out. That is how crucial this next few months in our island story is. It matters, and it matters a lot. The question is, what can you do? Well, one thing I learned leading a new political party and movement that started to take votes in very large numbers from both the Conservative and the Labour Party, the one thing I've learned is all our career politicians really fear is losing votes, because losing votes means they could lose their jobs. So what we need to do, we need to kick them in the ballot box. We need to kick them where it hurts. We need you and hundreds of thousands of you across the country, millions of you, to do something that perhaps you've never done before. On the back of these leaflets that are on your chair, you will see the names, addresses, telephone numbers and emails for all the MPs in Harrogate and the surrounding area. I'll bet that over the years, only a tiny percentage of this room have ever written to their MP, and I'll bet an even smaller number have ever gone along to a surgery to meet their MP. You see, the point is, folks, in the comfort of Westminster, they think they can give us Brexit in name only, and they think they can get away with it. They think we are too placid, too docile, and too stupid to stand up and fight for what is rightfully ours, the result of that referendum that happened on June the 23rd, 2016. So I want you to do different. I want you not just to write to your MP, I want you queuing outside their offices the next time they hold a surgery. I want you to tell them that if they betray the Brexit vote, they will never, ever get your vote at an election ever again. Let's make our members of Parliament, let's make those who would betray the Brexit vote, let's make them start to feel the heat. Please help us in doing that. The funny thing is, in many ways, we're not that far away. For all the coverage you'll see this evening of this march in London today, remember, consistently in the opinion polls, only about 20% of the country want to stay in the European Union on current terms. We are now in a clear majority because amongst those that voted Remain, a significant number say, do you know what? I didn't vote that way, but I'm a Democrat, I respect the result. The common phrase that I hear going around this country from people is, let's just get on with it. Yeah? That's the common phrase that I hear. And at the 11th hour, this Prime Minister can be forced from her negotiating position, or if not that, forced from office, because it may come to that in the next few weeks. We can go to the European Union and say, right, we will do a simple, grown-up free trade deal with you, but if you decide to cut off your nose to spite your face, if you decide that you don't actually represent the German car industry or the French wine industry, then we will leave on World Trade Organization rules. No deal, no problem. No problem. No problem. We are led by, without doubt, the most dishonest, worst, most insincere political class in the history of this country. They believe they can rob us of this great prize of independence for our country, self-determination, democracy, the ability to re-engage with our friends around the rest of the world. And our message from this hall today and out through the rest of this campaign, for however long it takes, is the referendum was our first victory, and we will go on winning.